Now, with that trial making national headlines, a young woman facing manslaughter charges accused of encouraging a young man she claims was her boyfriend to commit suicide through a series of text messages. ABC's Adrian Bankert is outside that courthouse in Massachusetts with the very latest in the case. Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning to you, Amy. Yes, prosecution focusing on witness testimony that these two only saw each other a few times in person, but texted each other day and night, and that this young woman's motive was to get the attention and sympathy of a grieving girlfriend. This morning, 20-year-old Michelle Carter on trial, accused of encouraging the young man she says she loved to take his own life.
The defendant needed something to get their attention, and she used Conrad as a pawn in her sick game of life and death.
Carter's charged with involuntary manslaughter after 18-year-old Conrad Roy III committed suicide in 2014, dying from carbon monoxide poisoning after he locked himself inside his truck. At the heart of this case, tens of thousands of texts between the two, including in the hours leading up to Roy's death. Carter apparently telling him it's time and you need to just do it.
She replies, "You are ready and prepared. All you have to do is turn on the generator and you will be free and happy." When he delayed, she expressed frustration and even anger.
According to prosecutors, Carter even texting him to get back in the truck when he has second thoughts.
It was the defendant who ordered him back in, then listened for 20 minutes as he cried in pain, took his last breath, and died.
But the defense argues that Carter had tried before to talk Roy out of harming himself, saying Carter struggled with her own depression, her attorney blaming her behavior on the meds she was taking.
It's a suicide. Even if somebody supports another individual in a suicide, it doesn't create a homicide.
Roy's mother admits her son was troubled, but says he was getting better.
I knew he was a little depressed, but I thought he was doing great.
And Roy's sister, who was just 13 at the time, testifies that days before the funeral, Carter asked for some of his ashes.
She needed to be special. She told Conrad before he would kill himself that he should tweet her, that she should be the last shout out before he died.
Now, between these thousands of texts, the defense points to a conversation where it's Roy who tells Carter that he regrets dragging her into his plans to kill himself. It's uncertain whether she'll testify, but she's waived her right to a jury trial, which means that a judge will decide whether or not she's guilty. If convicted, she faces up to 20 years in prison. Amy?
All right, Adrian, thank you. And veteran felony prosecutor Nancy Grace joins us now from Atlanta. And Nancy, it's interesting because in the state of Massachusetts, it is not illegal to encourage someone to commit suicide. Those texts are pretty hard to listen to. What do you think the prosecution's case is? How strong is it?
Well, you're right about that. It is not illegal in that jurisdiction to encourage someone to commit suicide. However, in this case, it could be construed as more than just encouraging, actually aiding and abetting. If you really look at these thousands of texts, which I've studied very carefully, I've spoken to the victim's family as well as the defense attorney. She actually tells him how to commit suicide, how to jerry-rig a generator, how to set up the apparatus so he can die. It's thousands of texts, thousands of phone calls. It goes on and on and on. The defense is also relying on freedom of speech. But let me remind everyone, freedom of speech is not unfettered. You can't go in a theater and yell fire and watch people trip as they try to get out. All speech is not protected.
Carter, as we heard, waived her right to a jury trial. A judge is going to decide this case. How does that impact what we see happen?
That may be the single most important factor in this case. Cataldo, the defense attorney, very wise to do that, because when I read these texts, I know it's wrong, that he would be alive, as the family says, if not but for her. However, a judge will remove all that emotion and maybe thinking along the lines of, she wasn't even there. How could she have made him commit suicide? It's a very emotional issue, and by getting rid of the jury, they may be getting rid of that emotion.
Nancy, what about her age? She was 17 at the time of the alleged crime. Does that play a role in this?
Well, here's the deal. Now she looks like a mature young lady. She is very, very controlled. He was younger than her, and he had had depression. She knew that. He was an easy target. It was all about her getting the attention from a dead boyfriend and people noticing her. I think that is the takeaway the judge will have.
And it'll be interesting to see if she takes the stand or not. Nancy Grace, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.